Previously on Video Game Hangover.
Oh, I can explain what I meant if you like.
Yeah, save it. I don't think anybody cares. Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. This is episode 5.
Yeah.
Yes, the long-awaited and eagerly anticipated.
Delayed
5.
due to sickness.
Due to sickness, yeah. Sickness and travel.
Who was sick?
I was sick. You were sick, weren't you?
A little bit, yeah, but I'll just blame you because that's fun to do.
Yeah, I was in.
I wasn't sick. I've
DJ
been
was in
waiting on you
perfect
guys
health.
this whole week. Yeah, just been
That's what you
hanging
get
out.
for never leaving your house. Only wandering out occasionally to pick up a burrito.
Yeah. You
My
know
name is
too
Randy
well.
Dickinson. I'm in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I am in significantly better health. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm
I appreciate
DJ
you
Ross.
asking.
Well, sorry, we're going ahead.
I stepped on your intro.
We'll cut that out or something. I am DJ Ross from Mountain View, California, the burrito capital of the world.
Only because you're in it.
I single-handedly bringing that statistic up. Yeah,
I've never been to Mexico, but I'm pretty sure they got you in burritos.
they got pictures of me hanging on all their walls.
our founder.
We take checks from this man.
Right.
Hey everyone, this is Paul Sandu in Dallas, Texas, and I am going to be switching my main from Guile to Zangief immediately. In fact, I wish I could build a time machine, go back in time 20 years, and just make Zangief my main back when Street Fighter 2 first came out. And if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, check the show notes.
Street Fighter 2 is a video game, right?
Yeah, I think it is. But I love Zangief now.
Excellent. Paul is in touch with his emotions on Zangief. Thank you.
Love the Geef.
On this week's show, what are we going to do on this week's show? We're going to talk about our favorite game developers. I had the luck, the fortune to visit Volition Games headquarters in Champaign, Illinois a couple weeks back, and it got us talking about the makers of our favorite games, so we thought we would bring that into the show this week. We also want to talk a bit about game reviews. We are actually going to start generating a few game reviews for our website, vghangover.com, as if you didn't know. And it got us talking about the state of game reviews. So we want to break that down a bit in this week's episode.
And some of us are quite passionate about the topic of game reviews.
Apparently.
Consider our outline has an apology from Paul if he gets worked up over this. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, we want to take a quick comment on most of you know we were running a contest last week. Was it last week already? Yeah, last week do a. We were giving away a copy of the brand new Pixel Junk game, Pixel Junk Shooter 2, on the PSN. And first of all, we want to give another shout out to our listener and one of our top fans here, Freaky Zeke. He's Freaky Zeke.
He should be
_
awarded
on Twitter.
the award for top fan award.
Freaky Zeke. Okay, Freaky Zeke, the number one VG Hangover super fan. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Your plaque is in the mail. So many thanks to him for making this contest possible, for giving us our code, and then also congratulations to James Ferguson, our lucky winner.
Yeah, congrats.
Woo!
We hope you're enjoying Pixel Junk Shooter 2. And if you didn't win this time, don't despair, because we've got another few more surprises for you next episode. So make sure to give that a listen.
Indeed. Cool. Before we kick into the what we've been playing part of the show, I want to talk a bit about where I've been going. I guess this would be the where you've been going section of the show.
Where's Randy been?
Right. Where in the world is Brian Williams? Or
Travel talk with DJ
Right.
Randy and Paul.
So I've had two sort of fairly big road trips over the last couple of weeks. Back at the end of February, early March, I went, as I said, I went to Champaign to visit Volition Games headquarters to check out the new Red Faction Armageddon. It was awesome. I mean, getting out there was kind of a pain in the ass. Unfortunately, I flew on the rainiest, windiest day in February, so they canceled a bunch of flights. And
it sounded like quite a travel ordeal, I mean, even as far as travel ordeals go.
Right. Well, I was supposed to fly from Hartford, Connecticut to Chicago, Illinois, and then take a little sort of puddle jumper plane from Chicago to Champaign, and they canceled that connecting flight because of the weather. And I was stuck in an airport in Chicago going, oh, okay, so now what? In my big bad grown-up life, on all the flights I've ever been on, I've never been in an airport where a flight was canceled. So I was sort of like, I need an adult to tell me what to do. But people in the gate started talking to each other, and were talking about hooking up and renting cars. And I had been texting one of the other dudes who was trekking out to the Volition Community Day. 3 random words from CAG. Joey, he's a good guy. And he texted me back and said, I found some guys. They're all going to Champaign. We have a car. Run down to the baggage claim right now. So I ran down to the baggage claim as quickly as I could, and fortunately was able to grab a seat in their car, and we made the trek across a very rainy Illinois to Champaign.
So who were these guys?
There were
polka band.
Well, there were, in addition to the 4 of us who were going out for Community Day. Well, there were only 3 because one dude's flights got so screwed up that he couldn't even make it out of Florida.
Ouch.
So there were 3 of us who were going for Community Day, but there were other people from like press. There were a couple dudes from like THQ headquarters who were going in to check out something. So there were other people who were sort of flying into Chicago and into Champaign that day whose travel got as fucked up as mine. And fortunately we were able to sort of like, open our mouths and identify each other and say, are you going here? And we're able to sort of make it work. So yeah, I got to spend a couple hours in a car with a couple of other big time gamers, and we just chatted about gaming and all kinds of fun stuff for 2 hours while this one guy who I forget his name, unfortunately, saved our bacon and drove us to Volition. So
that was like a 2.5 hour drive, wasn't it?
It was about that, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
How kind of him.
It was very nice. Saved my ass. Well, the alternative obviously was to sleep in a hotel in Chicago and then come home without getting to see Red Faction or Volition. So, yeah. So the next day started with us going to Volition. There's not a ton of details I can provide. I have an NDA, so I'm a little vague on, I guess, not necessarily vague, but a little scared to say too much, lest I get sued by the THQ conglomerate.
Volition
they might kill you.
But I had some
guy's going to show up at your door with a sledgehammer.
Right, exactly. I had some hands-on time with Red Faction Armageddon. I played some of the single player. I played Ruin Mode, which was just announced, which is a competitive online sort of leaderboard-ish destruction game. And I played something else that I can't talk about.
No.
Yeah, I also got a tour of Volition headquarters. I got to see all kinds of cool sort of Red Faction and Saints Row history. They had like a little display, not a little, pretty significant display in their lobby of sort of foreign video game boxes and all kinds of like sort of Volition history. It was very cool. Lots of cool promo stuff and autographed copies of games from all the developers from their history and stuff. And then they gave us a tour of sort of the production offices where we got to see a lot of artwork and fun stuff like that. And I think that's probably all I can go into at this point. There is certainly more.
To be continued.
To be continued. There's a lot more to say, but I really can't say a hell of a lot of it until the game gets much closer to coming out. But the one thing I was hoping to sneak a peek of was Saints Row the Third while we were there. But we could barely get anybody to sort of even look us in the eye when that word came out of our mouth. So much to my excitement, 2 days after we got back, the game was announced. So I'm looking forward to that. That's supposed to come out later this year, actually. So Volition has sort of 2 big and exciting games, exciting to me anyways, in the pipeline for 2011. So, but yeah, that was awesome. That was very cool. I got to meet a ton of great people. They kept bringing in sort of programmers and developers and writers and directors and stuff to talk to us and answer our questions, and all of that was very cool and insightful and interesting. So it was great to sort of see behind the curtain and see what sort of goes into the life of a game developer for a day.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be a hell of a fun trip for sure.
That sounds really cool. I'm a little jealous. Not about the not so much about the travel, but
yeah, right.
Getting to tour Volition sounds awesome.
You can have that part.
I'm jealous about the travel, man. You made friends for life.
I did. We sort of bear these wounds together now. Yeah, it was but no, it was excellent. It was super cool of listening to this. I am not aware of any other developer ever doing anything like this, where they sort of open their doors and bring their fans in. So I give a big shout out and a tip of the hat to Jay Goldberg, the community manager at Volition, who organized this whole thing, picked the winners, and orchestrated the ordeal of getting us out to Champaign for a day. I think my great regret is that it was over much too quick. I could have easily have spent much more time there digging into their stuff.
I hope we can get Jay on the show someday. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yes, I sort of broached the subject with him over lunch while we were in Champaign, and he said, sure, we can try to make that happen. So we will, behind the scenes, of course, try to orchestrate a guest appearance by Jay and talk to him a bit about his job and life at Volition.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. And I guess sort of the big second road trip I've been on was yesterday. I went to PAX East, and by yesterday I mean Sunday, not yesterday the day before you hear this podcast.
Yeah, you're gonna be very
recorded live,
aware of time.
Right. So yeah, it was PAX East was in Boston this past weekend, and I unfortunately was not able to pull off getting there for the entire 3-day spectacle, but I was able to do the big final day of the show. And it was crazy. I have never. Boston's only a couple hours away, so I drove up there in the morning. I've never been to a Comic-Con or a video game convention or any place where anyone was dressed up like characters that wasn't a Halloween party.
Which character did you go as?
I went as a chubby, aging video game nerd guy.
He went as Randy Dickinson,
yes,
co-host of Video Game Hangover.
Right. There was a bunch of other people dressed like me, too.
You got to sue them, man, for copyright infringement.
Should have coordinated that better. I hate it when that happens.
What was great, it was sort of, I just walked through the door, picked up my badge, and the first thing I saw walking out into the show floor was 2 people walking towards me with traffic cones on their heads, dressed like zombies from Plants vs. Zombies. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be like that.
It's one of those parties.
Right. I was told by somebody in line that there were plants to go with those zombies somewhere, but I didn't see them, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
But I thought that was a pretty spectacular costume.
It's going to overrun the yard. You can't find those plants.
The big sort of cosplay hit of the day seemed to be Altair from Assassin's Creed, or Ezio. I couldn't tell which character it was supposed to be. Most of them were not really good. A lot of them were sort of like...
Was he missing a finger? Because then it's Altair.
Oh, I didn't count, unfortunately.
Next time you got to grab those hands, man. Inspect those hands.
see how dedicated he is.
Do you happen to have 6 fingers on your left hand? You killed my father. No, anyways. But it was massive. It was way more. There was way more to it than I thought. I mean, driving out there, I was sort of thinking to myself, I don't know how this could be a 3-day event. Like, I go to like horror conventions, and we've tried to do sort of 2 days, and I sort of run out of things to do or look at or talk to or get autographed or whatever. So I really didn't know how this could be a giant 3-day thing that people sort of spend their weekend at. And I was maybe 2 hours into my day, and I thought, oh, now I know how. Because there is a lot of stuff to do.
Many sacrifices have to be made when you go to a convention like that, I think.
Yeah. I didn't, that said, in regard to sacrifices, like I didn't go to any of the panels or any of the Q&A sessions. I didn't go to sort of the opening and closing sort of hoopla. I did not see the Omegathon, unfortunately, which is their big sort of random daily gaming thing. I guess sort of the big Saturday night closer was a massive game of Jenga, which I'm awful at because I tend to be kind of twitchy, but I like to watch people play who are good at.
Surgeons.
Right, exactly. So yeah, you don't want me on your team on Operation. But I just sort of tried to spend the day trying to play as many games as possible, and the ones that I couldn't get time to play, I tried to make sure that I sort of got to see some of. I think in terms of things that I sort of got my hands on, I played a little bit of Fear 3. It is sort of as you would expect. It is a shooter with crazy power things going on.
It's another Fear game.
Right, exactly. It's another Fear game.
Does it have a color palette?
Dark is the color palette.
Is that the one with the little girl with the long hair?
Yes. Yep. I liked Fear 1 and 2. I enjoyed both of those on consoles. So this I'm led to believe that I would like the third one as well. But it is really sort of just sci-fi shooter with cool powers. What else?
And that crazy girl from The Ring.
Yeah, essentially, yes. Played Hunted, which is a sort of two-person Gears of War-ish looking game. It's a co-op male and female character, but it's sort of in a fantasy setting. I was the girl. Some random dude wandered up and played the guy, and we killed like skeleton dudes in a cornfield. I don't know. I think I had played maybe for 5 minutes, and I wasn't totally sold.
I actually haven't heard of that. Sounds kind of interesting.
It was the same folks that make Brink, which is a shooter that I actually really, really want to play and wanted to check out. But unfortunately, the wait on that, the demo for that sort of to get up to a station and play it was 30 minutes long. And they only had
just for the demo, geez.
Just the demo, yeah. So they only had maybe 10 stations where you could walk up and play it. So it was sort of like you had to sort of stand there for 30 minutes to wait for the person in front of you to finish and hopefully sort of dodge onto the system before the next person did.
Yeah.
So I them out of the way.
Ultimately ended up wandering away and playing Hunted. I played a bunch of indie games. Indie games were sort of easy to get time with. They sort of push those guys out to the side. And
did you play that spy game where you have to I forget what it's called. It's that indie game where you're a spy and you have to blend in with the crowd and some sniper has his sights set on you because that looks so good.
No, I have no idea what that is.
That's an indie game? No, I haven't heard of that either.
Oh, well, I think the premise is basically one person is an assassin and one person is a spy. And then the spy has to blend in with the crowd of all these NPCs and act like he's an NPC before he can complete his mission. And the assassin has to watch the NPC's behavior and try to figure out which one is the spy and then kill him before the objective is reached.
Oh, you're talking about Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Yeah, that already came out. I don't know why they'd be showing that at PAX.
No, I don't know. I don't know what that game is, but that sounds cool, and I wish I had played it.
I'll have to find some clips or developer diary or whatever, because I know it's still in development and it's in alpha stages or something. Maybe it was at GDC. I'm not sure.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Paul.
Okay, well, I'll try to put it in the show notes because it sounds very intriguing to me.
I wanted to play LA Noire really bad, and they had demos going of that. But the line on that was ridiculous, and I couldn't get anywhere near it. I was able to watch a big chunk of it going on the monitors, though. They had a live DJ in the Rockstar booth, of course. It was awesome. And they were giving away T-shirts and stuff like that. I got an LA Noire T-shirt. That was kind of exciting.
Oh, nice.
That is not an indie game, though. What are some of the indie games? I played a game called Orcs Must Die. I played one called Kill Some Robots. These are all sort of future Xbox Live, PS3 downloadable titles. There was a cool looking booth called Ska Games. I guess it's the folks that make a game called The Dishwasher, which is a kind of a beat 'em up. They have a sequel to that coming out that I played, and that was awesome. It was like real sort of dark color palettes. It was super hyper bloody, real fast paced platformer. That was a good time. That was great. And they had great product too. They had some really cool T-shirts and stuff like that. What else? I got to see a big chunk of Gears of War 3 in action. That looks like fun. I got to play a game called The Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Apparently, creativity in naming your downloadable title is the way to go. I definitely
Next, they'll come up with a game called Space Marine.
Right. Oh, I think that's coming. I played Trench. I played the new Double Fine game, which is an XBLA exclusive. That was really, really cool. Sort of riding around. It was basically a tower defense game, but you could sort of the towers were essentially great big mechs that you could ride around and shoot at each other with. I wanted to play Portal 2, but it wasn't a playable demo. They basically sort of ushered you into a theater and you watched somebody else play the first 10 minutes or so of the game.
Well, it's coming out soon, so your wait won't be too long.
But I did that. I actually that was one of the things that I was sort of most willing to wait in line for. And it wasn't too bad. Cool. It was about 20 minutes before I got in. And I got to see the intro. It was great. I mean, it was sort of chock full of laughs. Portal is funny anyways. But Portal 2, man, is just hysterical. There was so much funny stuff going on in that first intro. I definitely, there's no doubt in my mind how much I'm going to enjoy that game. Sort of bummer of the day, though, was waiting in line to see Portal and chatting up one of the booth babes and her telling me, oh, we ran out of T-shirts yesterday. I want a Portal shirt. What else? I saw a cool game called Fallen Frontier that looks a lot like Shadow Conspiracy. It's basically, they said that they were going for a Metroidvania.
Shadow Conspiracy?
Shadow Conspiracy? Wasn't that the sort of Metroidvania shooter on Xbox Live?
Shadow Complex.
Shadow Complex. There you go.
Okay, so that's what I thought you were talking about.
I believe Conspiracy is the sequel.
Are they making a sequel to that?
Yeah, that's what I read yesterday, actually.
They should be. Yeah.
I think the developers are talking about how it's kind of delayed and they're trying to figure out when to release it or something. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. Or do you? Up to you.
You know what the sequel to that needs is more lasers.
Yes. I'm sure they're working on it.
Can't that be said for most games?
That's true, but that game especially. Yeah.
I haven't played it. I'll take your word for it.
I got to see the new SOCOM in action. That looked cool. I don't know. I didn't line up for to actually go in and play it, but I got to see other people play it.
I got to try that out a few weeks ago, and actually,
right.
I was gonna point it out to you. I thought that is a game you might actually enjoy quite a bit. It was very felt very much like Gears of War, and I'm sure if there are any longtime SOCOM fans listening to this,
their heads just exploded.
Yeah, they're just like grimacing hearing me say that. But this was the campaign and the co-op campaign, and it was pretty fun. I might check that out.
It looked like fun. I mean, I like sort of the objective-based stuff in SOCOM. I just, I guess I didn't really care for the sort of the punishing level of difficulty, and the fact that if you sort of died in the first 5 minutes, you had to wait out the rest of the match.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of been my SOCOM experience.
But it's just not how I'm accustomed to playing games.
Right.
But yeah, it looked good. It looked great. The oddity was that they weren't demoing it with move controls. I know that is sort of something that they've been trying to sort of talk about quite a bit. They even have sort of a SOCOM pack that comes with a move controller and whatnot. But
that huge plastic gun.
Yeah, they were just showing it off with good old fashioned PS3 controllers. So I got to see Child of Eden in action at the
how was that?
booth.
I'm kind of.
I have no idea what was going on that screen. It was a lot of blinking lights and like wormy butterfly things flying around. They were demoing it on Kinect, and the guy was sort of waving his arms and like wagging his hands and stuff like that, and there would be big color explosions on the screen behind him. I have no clue what was happening. The music was awesome. But
it's an experience, man. It's not a game.
Yeah. I don't know what the game was. I don't know what he was doing. But it was very pretty. And it sounded fantastic. What else? Yeah, I saw... I'm looking at my list here. I said so.
Pretty long list.
Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff. I saw more than I got to play, unfortunately. Oh, the thing that I most sort of wanted to do when I got in there was to play the 3DS. I can't believe I almost forgot about this part. And I knew that they were going to have demo stations for the 3DS. I've been sort of waffling back and forth on whether or not I want to cancel my pre-order. There's really nothing sort of in the launch lineup that I'm dying to play.
Did they give away vomit bags?
There were no vomit bags. There was no vomit that I saw or smelled.
At least not at the 3DS booth.
Yeah, the 3DS booth was nuts. They had massive lines for most of the day, but I ultimately found out that the Sprint kiosk, which was across the airplane hangar, also had a couple of 3DSs set up, and like the Capcom booth had 3DSs set up. So I sort of snuck into those lines, and I was able to play the Resident Evil: The Mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
On the 3DS.
You should have played Street Fighter as Zangief.
I played a little Street Fighter, actually. I had no bleeding clue what I was doing because I've never played a Street Fighter game in my life.
Next time, pick Zangief.
I played some of that. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And then as I was leaving, well, I guess sort of impressions. Resident Evil. It looks like Resident Evil. It looks like Resident Evil 5. I could not believe how good the graphics are on this thing. The 3D works great. I played with the little slider thing, and you could actually sort of see the world sort of get deeper as you slide the 3D slider out. Mm-hmm. It was very impressive. I did not get nausea or motion sickness or anything like that. So the rumors are true. You really sort of have to keep it sort of steady in front of you. If you sort of move your DS quite a bit or sort of take your eyes away and then back, there is sort of a second where you have to kind of reset your brain and eyes to seeing the 3D effect. But I mean, I wasn't blown away by the game. I mean, Resident Evil: The Mercenaries, I mean, it was really just sort of an add-on for Resident Evil 5. and I like it didn't feel like it controlled right. And obviously, sort of that's not the best setting to play something like that, anyway, with 22,000 screaming people around me.
Right.
But it certainly looked impressive. I could not believe how good it looked for basically a DS game. I played a little Nintendogs and Cats. It looked cute. I don't know if there's a game there. I've never played a Nintendogs before, but I played Pilot Wings.
Ooh, I want to try that. Yeah.
Little jetpack and me sort of flying around. That's the one that I think I probably would get at launch.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds like it sounds much more interesting than all the other ones.
Yeah. It was cute. It was fun. It was basically sort of a Wii Sports Resort kind of pack-in game, essentially, that they're happen to be selling for $35. But I had enough fun with sort of maybe the 10 minutes I played on the demo of that to think that maybe I would be worth keeping my 3DS pre-order and getting Pilot Wings on day one. Plus, I'm really interested in the AR stuff and the 3D photography that you can do with the cameras in it, and none of that, obviously, you could sort of demo at the show. So
I've heard a lot of good things about the AR stuff, but that would be kind of difficult to show off in a.
And all of those sort of come with it. They're on deck on day one, so I'm curious.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear sort of positive impressions about the 3DS, because I felt like Sony had their big NGP announcement and it really stole the 3DS's thunder. So
right.
Glad to hear it coming back a little bit.
It did for me as well, yeah. And the NGP seems so far away at this point, and really sort of nebulous because nobody's actually sort of had their hands on one. But I guess
cost like $800.
I have in the margins of my notes, I have disappointments, no NGP. I mean, I honestly didn't expect to sort of go to PAX and play the NGP, but that would have been nice. You know what I mean? There was no real Sony presence at all besides SOCOM. Like Xbox had like a great big. Well, the giant Gears of War thing, but they also had a great big section where you could play a ton of XBLA games, which is why I played Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet and what was the other one I said?
Kill
Orcs
Robots.
Must Die and things like that.
Kill All Humans.
Right. Trenched. That was the XBLA booth, and these were great big giant sort of shops set up in the center of the venue. But Sony really had sort of one kind of box for SOCOM and nothing else. There was nowhere you could play PSN games. There were no sort of exclusives teased at all, and there was no presence for the PSP or NGP that I could see. So that was a little sort of underwhelming, I guess, for me.
No, like Infamous 2 or Uncharted 3. I got Uncharted 3 might be a little.
Yeah, no, I was hoping to see sort of Naughty Dog there, or Insomniac with what's Insomniac's big shooter coming out? This Resistance. No, I mean no Infamous either. All of these are people sort of developers that I was hoping to sort of be able to go ingratiate myself upon, but no, they had no presence there. There was nothing set up, unfortunately.
Maybe they were just all hiding in the corner.
I think I got that whole room. I did laps. I didn't see anything. I had a map I was working with, and I'm not very good with a map, but I'm pretty sure I found everybody I knew that was there.
They're probably just waiting for E3.
I imagine so, yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Well, I mean, Infamous will come out before E3. So I don't know. I don't know what their sort of marketing is, but it did not include an appearance at PAX East.
That seems like a missed opportunity there, then.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was awesome. I mean, I had a great day. I got to meet up with Triple X, Andy from CAG, who we've played video games with, I think, for probably 3+ years at this point. And he just recently moved to Boston. I got to meet up with him in person at the show and
moved to Boston specifically for PAX East.
Go to PAX, exactly right.
For PAX East, no. He moved
to hang out
Boston
with me on a Sunday afternoon.
To meet Randy,
right? Yeah, I think it's sort of the big bummer of the day. Besides not getting a Portal T-shirt, was I had a sort of a mental list of games I wanted to see. I wanted to see the new Deus Ex. I wanted to see Crysis. There's that new Grasshopper manufacturer game, Shadows of the Damned, that looks really cool to me, which is probably a surprising statement. And
yeah,
but they weren't demoing that anywhere. I want to see the new American McGee Alice sequel sort of in action, and they weren't showing that either. So this, I mean, it wasn't a day of disappointments by any means, but yeah, there were things that I sort of had in my brain that I thought, geez, it would be awesome to try this now, and they just weren't there. So I mean, I guess it's sort of naive to think that PAX will represent every gaming faction in the world, but they didn't. I guess is my takeaway from the day. So yeah, I think that's my PAX report. I did not catch the PAX Pox, unless it kicks in later.
No.
Yeah. That's PAX Prime.
Oh, is it Prime? Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably catch that when we go there.
Yeah, Paul and I are definitely planning on making it out to PAX Prime. It sounds it's been getting bigger and bigger every year, getting more coverage, and I was sort of like, this year I think I'll finally check it out. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot
of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It is truly a massive experience. I mean, to be able to do the sort of the opening closing ceremonies, to do the Q&As with Gabe and Tycho, to do any of the panels and stuff like that. I mean, all of those are sort of a full-time endeavor in their own right. So, and I did none of that stuff yesterday. I really just sort of tried to play games.
It sounds like, even for just being there one day, you saw plenty of stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And see, for me, the draw is the panels. I mean, I will wait 2 hours to see some sort of developer or someone speak on something that I'm really interested in. So that's the main draw for me. So I'm hoping that when we're in Seattle this summer, I'll be able to check out as many panels as possible.
Right. Well, I mean, and the thing that I'm not even doing justice here is there's a massive presence for tabletop games.
Yeah.
There's a massive presence for pen and paper RPGs. There's a pretty significant room for like schools that have gaming programs and things like that to sort of solicit students. There's a huge comics presence. There's a lot of stuff going on that I barely even sort of scratched the surface of, or just sort of breezed by because I'm like, I don't have time for that. I have to play Portal.
Sounds like Geek Mecca.
It was indeed sort of geek HQ for the universe for the weekend. It was crazy. Cool. Any other burning questions? Anything else I can enlighten you guys to?
Well, you already told me that you didn't see Battlefield 3, so I got nothing.
I did not. No, they were demoing it. I'm pretty sure you could go in and play it, but I did not. Unfortunately, sorry.
Oh man, I wonder if that's.
And I don't think I even saw anybody playing it.
No, it seems kind of early for it to be playable at this point, but it'd be kind of cool to watch.
It was hard because some of the developers had these little sort of like they did with Portal. They had a theater set up with bleachers, and you could go in and sort of mostly watch people play it. I think that was one of the ones where it was sort of a theater environment. I don't think anybody was actually playing it. It may have just been media promo kind of stuff.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but it's still pretty far away. You said, right?
Well, it's coming out in the fall, but I guess it is kind of far away. But they've just started showing off footage of it recently, so yeah, it's still kind of early.
Excellent. Yeah, there was one of the ones that they were showing, sort of finally showing me footage of The Darkness 2. And I really liked the first Darkness. I thought that was a great game. But that was one of those ones where you had to wait in line for 40 minutes to sort of go sit in a theater for 5 minutes to watch a video. And I'm like, just didn't seem like a fair exchange to me. So I'm sure more of that will come eventually. Cool. All right. Before we dig into, I guess, sort of this week's big topics, we wanted to spend some time talking about other games that I've been playing and you guys have been playing.
You have more games?
I have more games, believe it or not. More games that I've played actually in my house, not in a giant airplane hangar in Boston, or a convention center. I guess it's not an airplane hangar, but it felt like it.
Same difference.
Yeah. So, Paul, what have you been playing lately?
Whew. Well, there's been a couple of games I've been spending most of my time with. Actually, what I've done is I've revisited Xenogears. It's been about 12-ish years since I played it last. And what I'm actually planning on doing is, since Xenogears, I've been waiting for it for God knows how long to hit PSN, and it came out, a couple weeks ago. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a little blog series up on our website. Basically, what I'm planning on doing is revisiting games that I haven't played in 5 to 10 years and just seeing what my perspective is now. Do these games hold up? Are they still enjoyable? I've spent about 18 hours with Xenogears, and I have to say that there's a lot of things that I still really, really like about it, but there's a few things that, my gaming tastes have changed a little bit, and some things don't quite hold up. So I'll probably be going over that in this blog series. I'm not sure what the next game I want to go over is. I was thinking Vagrant Story because I've never played that, but kind of what I'm hoping to do is...
It'd be kind of hard to compare with your earlier impressions. So.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing about Vagrant Story. I've never really played it longer than 5-6 hours, so I may actually select Suikoden 2. I'm still not sure where I am with that, but...
Never heard of it.
But what I'm hoping is that members of the community, the VGH community, which is growing, will kind of join me, when I announce what game I'm going to play, and maybe they'll play it along with me, and we can just share, what our perspectives are.
You know what I think we should do is we should let everyone else pick what game you're going to play.
Yeah, we could do that. That'd be awesome. Maybe from a list or just out of a hat.
I'm thinking like Madden 99, maybe 98.
Okay, we'll have to maybe refine that idea just a little bit before we can go ahead with it. But yeah, that might work. Non-Madden games, maybe.
It reminds me of a concept. It's hard to interject that we had when we were first sort of devising the possibility of doing a podcast. Didn't we propose sort of a segment called "Randy Hates This Game," where you would make me play.
That's every segment.
Final
Isn't
Fantasy.
That a little
or
redundant? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Make me play some crazy Japanese thing.
Like a Dragon Quest 9 or something. Yeah, we could try that
rare
segment.
exception to an otherwise sound policy.
But really what I'm going for is trying to get some community involvement, and hopefully, because I know a lot of people that listen to our show, they used to be super hardcore RPG nerds or whatever. So it might be kind of fun just to see how things have changed in the last 10 years, 12 years. I'm a lot older now than I used to be, obviously. And it's quite interesting.
Thanks for explaining how that works.
That's what I'm here for, to explain the most obvious things ever.
You're listening to Stating the Obvious with Paul Sandu. Color of red is very red.
But anyway, it's funny to see how certain things that I really enjoyed in Xenogears had, kind of changed for me. Like I said, there are certain things I simply do not care for anymore in my gaming. For example, a whiny protagonist, and for about the first 5 hours of Xenogears, you have a very whiny protagonist. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to think it was the deepest, most amazing experience, and now I think it's a great game, but there are certain things that I like a little bit more and don't like. So I'll...
there's a UFO landing outside. Somebody go take a photo.
Yeah, Seth Rogen's going to get off, and Shaun of the Dead's going to be there.
Yeah, we'll just have to kind of ignore that sound, the UFO that's landing in my backyard here. But yeah, look for that. I'll be probably doing my first post on Thursday.
Cool.
Outlining the first 10 to 15 hours of Xenogears, my thoughts and whatnot. Hopefully some people can maybe hop on the Xenogears train and try it out for the first time, or try it again for the first time in 10 years like me.
Yeah, we'll have to throw up a poll or something to let people pick your next game. I think that would be cool.
That would be kind of cool, actually. But as long as Madden's not Madden 99, that game sucks, man.
I promise Madden 99 will not be on the list.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, DJ, you are not in charge of that list.
Oh, well, that just throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Evil plans thwarted. But yeah, the other game that I've been spending most of my time with, in fact, I am kind of suffering from a video game hangover today. I got my hooks into Dragon Age 2, which came out about a week ago, last Tuesday. And I gotta say, there was a few things I heard about the game when it first came out that kind of had me approaching it with a little trepidation. I wasn't sure I was gonna like it as much as the first, because there were certain, I'm not gonna spoil things here, but the game takes place in a city-state, whereas the first game took place across an entire country. So I was afraid that perhaps some of the epic exploration aspects of the first game were going to be lost in the sequel. Because for those of you who don't know, Dragon Age 1 had about 6 or 7 years of development, which is a massively long time. And the game was just absolutely huge. It took me about 60 hours to get through it on my playthroughs. And the sequel came out about 18 to 20 months after the first one came out. So I don't know how BioWare was able to churn this game out. And I was really afraid that, excuse me, that the game was going to lose a little bit of what made the first game so special. But after spending about 25 hours with Dragon Age 2, I think I might actually like it a little bit more than the first one, which was wholly unexpected.
That's surprising, because I've heard a lot of sort of lukewarm reactions to this one. And I know you're a tremendous fan of the first one, so that's cool.
Well, see, here's the thing. The first one is basically a spiritual successor to the Baldur's Gate series, I think. I think that's the one. So it plays really, really well on the PC. And I think BioWare had outsourced the console ports to a third party. And so, DJ, I know that you had some complaints about the combat. It was kind of clunky in the console version. It just kind of turned you off.
It really, the interface really felt like it was designed for a PC. It was really awkward and sort of overwhelming.
And I was able to get through that, but obviously, it was just kind of a roadblock for you. But apparently BioWare...
Well, among other things, but yeah.
Okay. But apparently BioWare had, it seems very obvious that they designed the sequel with consoles in mind first. The game is fast, whereas I would never use that to describe the first one. Like the sequel, it's like just balls to the wall, and the action in the battles is just incredible. And it still requires a little bit of a tactical play, but on like the normal setting, you can get through it just playing it, on a whim. You don't have to be too fussy about positioning your party members and stuff around the battlefield. But it's just a vast improvement over the first one in terms of gameplay for the battle system. But what I find probably the most surprising thing, one thing I kind of didn't like about Mass Effect 2, and you guys know that I'm a huge fan of that game.
I don't know if we've gone over that before.
But I felt the cast in Mass Effect 2 was just a little bit too big and not as fleshed out as perhaps the first one.
Totally, yeah.
You agree, yeah. I mean, there's just some kind of like, they almost feel like throwaway characters, like they weren't fully fleshed out.
Well, it's funny because I felt like most of them were pretty interesting, and I was surprised that they were able to still accomplish that when they had like 10 or 12 characters.
Yeah,
but still, there was a lot to try and incorporate.
In fact, I think Mass Effect 2 may have been better off if they just cut the cast down to maybe 8 max or something like that, and maybe you could spend more time with those party members and whatnot. Yeah. But that's what they did in Dragon Age 2. You only have about 7 characters in total, and they're all fully fleshed out. And I got to tell you guys, BioWare is kind of known for putting like little romances in their game, where you can like get involved in a romantic sort of relationship with your party members. And obviously Dragon Age 2 follows suit. And I found myself courting a couple of characters that I was kind of interested in with my protagonist. And I could not believe this is the first time I had ever played a game, and I actually felt jealousy because I was courting this one character, and she actually, I think it's because I started a relationship with another character, so I kind of lost out on my chance with this one girl who I decided I wanted to go ahead and go after. And she actually, there's this entire quest chain. She chose to get involved with some sort of secondary character putz dude, and I was pissed off. I'm like, I spent the last 5 hours being your friend, trying to get to know you, and now I'm in the friend zone with her, and I was pissed.
Is there a trophy for that?
I don't know. Maybe there is. In the friend zone, you've entered the friend zone. But I mean,
it's like a trophy.
BioWare has knocked this one out of the park. This is one of the funniest games I've ever played in my entire life. I haven't laughed so hard ever while playing a game. And I haven't completed it yet, but I was really worried that the narrative would take a hit because it takes place in this one giant city-state, and that's not the case. I love this game, and I might like it more than the first one. Just incredible. And I was I was actually up all night playing it last night. I just couldn't put it down. Love it.
You don't know how that works for you.
But that's really about all I've been playing lately.
I'd like to check that out. I mean, everybody is just constantly praising both Dragon Age 2 and the original. I want to go back and give the original another shot, but on the PC, because I hear it's much, it's tailored to the PC and it has this different combat camera that suits the game much better. But yeah, I need to find some time for that.
Well, a lot of time. It's 60 hours plus.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't know if I want to get into that right now. Although I have been playing a ridiculous amount of Tactics Ogre, which came out last month. I'm still playing it. I think my clock in the game is up to about 50 or 60 hours at this point.
Nice, nice.
That's a lot of fun. I'll be probably talk about that a little bit later.
Dragon Age 1, it's an epic game, but it tends to drag on a little bit. This one, the sequel, just seems to have cut out a lot of the fat. And I know a lot of people on the BioWare forums were really complaining. They were worried that it was going to turn into a Dragon Mass Effect type of thing, because they did sort of take these sort of voiced protagonist from Mass Effect and almost insert something like a spiritual successor to that into Dragon Age 2. But I think it works well. The main character of Hawk is very enjoyable. He's excellent, or she. I mean, it's excellent. I love it. So people may have been complaining, but I think it's all for naught. You just got to give it a chance, People get so stuck in their ways, they don't want things to change. But, I mean, I was kind of like that a little bit too, but this game has won me over. Love it.
Wow, that was quite a detailed report there. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you're enjoying your time with it. DJ, what else have been occupying your time this week besides Tactics Ogre?
Well, because of our our Pixel Junk Shooter 2 giveaway, that's a a lot of stuff to say. That's kind of difficult to say. Pixel Junk Shooter 2.
Called PJS.
Yeah, PJS 2. Because of our giveaway, I thought, it's finally time for me to check out Pixel Junk Shooter 1. It's the third game in this Pixel Junk series from Q Games, and it's the fourth game actually. I think I've just pushed that whole Pixel Junk Racers game out of my memory. But I was a big fan of Pixel Junk Monsters. Pixel Junk Eden was kind of cool, but for some reason I never got around to this, and suddenly there's a sequel coming out, so I was like, oh, I should check it out. So I did, and it was actually it was pretty fun. You're playing as this little spaceship, and you fly around a cave and shoot things and haul rocks and stuff like that. It's funny. It actually reminds me a lot of this old NES game called Solar Jetman.
Oh, love that game.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun game. Huh?
That was a great game. One of the most difficult games I've
ever
played.
It's not an easy game. Yeah, I remember crashing into a lot of rocks. But yeah, it's sort of if you played Solar Jetman, you know what to expect. But basically, you're this little ship, and you I guess another game reminded me of is Lunar Lander, because there's a very integrated physics aspect, like you're always fighting against gravity and all that. But then another thing is it has all these different sort of elements in play in the caves you visit. Like some parts of the cave will be filled with water or magma or smoke or something like that, and they will sort of combine if you shoot away the right areas of rock, and the lava will spill into the lake and create steam or dirt that you blast through. So there's some pretty cool environmental puzzles in there.
Oh, neat.
And overall, it was just a lot of fun. It was kind of pretty straightforward gameplay, and it throws each of these new elements and different gameplay twists at you pretty gradually. So you're able to take it all in, and by the end of the game, there's all this crazy stuff going on. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that, and I finished it up after a few sessions because I was really enjoying it. And I'm looking forward to the sequel.
I think I have that on my hard drive as well. I should. I don't know that I've sort of played it for any length. I may have to go back and do it because I don't recall any of that lava, water, steam stuff at all. So
it's really cool. And actually, you can get these upgrades for your ship. That there's like the lava suit or the water suit. So instead of shooting bullets, you shoot magma, or you have a water cannon.
Oh, very cool.
And yeah, and that's just really fun because you can, you shoot all this lava into this lake, and it dries up, or it creates all this smoke, and it's sometimes I'd find myself just kind of playing around shooting magma everywhere, being like, oh, that's crazy.
Liquid hot magma.
Magma.
And I believe the first one has co-op. The second one has online co-op, and an online battle mode. So I'm also looking forward to trying that out. But yeah, Pixel Junk Shooter, highly recommend.
I may have to check that out when I have some free time.
Yeah, those Pixel Junk games are almost guaranteed to be a good time.
Yeah, that's another thing. They have a really good track record. And actually, I kind of want to go back and give Racers another try because I feel like they deserve it.
I have Monsters on the PSP, and it's...
That's a good game, yeah, I like that.
It's infuriating because I'm not good at tower defense games at all, but those little
it's so adorable.
Stomp out and start eating my babies, I get pissed.
Oh, there's so many spiders.
Yeah, spiders everywhere. It's a good game though. Yeah, cool. I've been playing shooters and a game show,
but not Pixel Junk Shooter.
But not Pixel Junk Shooter. No, I within a week of each other, I picked up Killzone 3 and Bulletstorm. Killzone 3 is Killzone 2, basically more of the same, with jetpacks.
Is that the subtitle? Killzone 3.
More of the same.
More of the same, except
it's basically the third game I've been playing this week is You Don't Know Jack, and it's funny because
love that game.
Me
in the
too,
90s.
very much so. And as you finish your first game in the game of You Don't Know Jack, you get a trophy called "It's Just Basically More of This."
Oh, then that sarcastic humor was always the best part.
Yep. Cookie Masterson as the host of You Don't Know Jack is just hysterical. That game is chock full of laughs. There is never a dull moment. Yeah, You Don't Know Jack. The disc has something like 75 episodes on it. They're supporting it with additional downloads of episodes. It is a riot. There's tons of pop culture stuff in there. It gets pretty frantic, so jamming on buttons, trying to weigh in before other competitors do. Online.
How does it work? Do you have to spell the answers, or do you select it from multiple choice?
No, yeah, that was one of the things I think I remember from the old PC versions where you had to type in answers, but
yes.
it is multiple choice in this version.
Okay.
You still get it's still sort of pretty dense. It's still pretty hard. The way the questions are phrased is very sort of like, wait, what are they asking?
I think they were doing they devoted a whole episode of this a whole episode of the Mobcast. They did a sort of a You Don't Know Jack feature where they were doing these trivia questions about the whole show.
And that's fun, yeah.
It sounds like multiple choice is going to make it, sort of dumb it down a bit, but it ends up really not helping you at all because they throw in so many decoy answers and you end up,
totally.
Okay, that's good.
Yourself the whole time.
It's hard to pull off multiple choice. That's why I'm a bit leery of that. Okay, cool. That's good.
Well, it also has there's 75 episodes, and each episode is probably about 20 to 25 minutes long.
Nice.
And in each episode, there is the wrong answer of the game. And at the beginning, you get the wrong answer of the game is sponsored by, and there's a sponsor, and you have to look for the wrong answer to one of the questions that ties into the name or theme of the sponsor.
Oh, interesting.
Then do you get points for picking that?
You get a lot more points for picking the wrong answer on purpose than you would picking the right answer to that question.
Oh, that's funny. That's kind of cool.
Like my brain is always sort of working against itself, trying to sort of find the wrong answer that fits into the wrong answer of the game. So and you get a trophy for collecting them. You get each one is an object basically. There's a couple's toenail clippers, and it's basically a pair of toenail clippers joined at the center so that you and a loved one can trim your toenails at the same time. And the show is sponsored by that, so you find the wrong answer that sort of supports that as the sponsor.
Okay, see, when you said sponsors, I thought you meant like real sponsors.
Oh, no, they're joke ones.
Excellent.
There's one that's sort of like Steve's like Hollywood blood factory. And it's sort of like, yeah, sure, Steve's got buckets of blood. Just don't ask us where we got it.
Does this have online multiplayer?
It does, online 4-player.
I may have to get it like this week then.
It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
You can buy 10 more episodes for $5, and I think they have a couple more packs coming. So they're going to continue to keep it fresh and relevant. There's questions on there about like Lady Gaga and Kesha gets name dropped in one of them, and Bieber comes up. So it's very sort of like goofy pop culture, and it's all very sort of sarcastic and kind of almost intolerant. And of pop culture, and when you screw up, Cookie makes fun of you ceaselessly.
Good.
Yeah, it's great. It's brilliant. It is by far the funniest video game I've ever played.
Because it's like, everyone loves Trivial Pursuit, except they hate it because of the crappy categories. So You Don't Know Jack is like all the good things about, of Trivial Pursuit distilled into an actual good game.
And no sports questions for me to screw it up. Right.
Hey, exactly. I like sports.
Oh, that's the bane of my existence in Trivial Pursuit is that if somebody's like, this guy played this game and did this stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea. Mike Tyson.
This game is played by throwing a ball into a hoop.
Hockey. What is
close?
Hockey? But yeah, nice. Killzone 3 I've sort of enjoyed. I like the online multiplayer more than I like the campaign. Basically, I sort of will brush past this because I think most people sort of know if Killzone is for them or not. Bulletstorm was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't going to get it day one. It looked like fun. It looked like it would be dumb, but I like sort of the mechanics on display and blah, blah, blah. It's actually a very competent shooter. It's a very good shooter with a lot of very fun kind of mechanics. You get the cool like a leash thing on your wrist that you can flick out and drag enemies towards you, and then you get a kick button. So you drag them towards you and you kick, and they launch out into space, and you shoot them.
Into space.
Typically in the balls. Yeah. One of the hosts of Weekend Confirmed called Bulletstorm "Ow My Balls" the game, and there is a lot of like massive testicular like trauma happening in this game. They're like, yeah, and there's a lot of sort of like dick jokes and things like that. So it's got a very sort of like dude bro kind of mentality, but it definitely
must
is
be from Epic Games.
It is definitely from Epic Games.
Well,
it's in on the joke,
though.
there's one of the characters says to you, if you come any closer, I'm gonna kick your dick off.
Nice.
And your character says, what does that even mean? So like they're sort of in on the fact that they're sort of lampooning that sort of like, I don't know, that bro mentality from Halo, kind of.
That they're obsessed with being 12-year-olds, obsessed with human male sexuality.
Yeah. I don't think
this is the same one where they, for as a promo, they put out that Call of Duty parody, right?
I believe so. Yeah, that sounds right.
And every time you fire your gun, it just goes boring, boring.
Yes. Yep. That's right. Yep. Yeah, and there's another character who calls you dick tits throughout the entire game.
Nice, bro. Nice.
Yep. And there's your sidekick in the game is angry at you for something that happens in the beginning of the game, and he spends the entire game, up to the point at which I've played anyways, being very pissed at you. So it's every chance he gets to sort of say something snide or conniving or counterproductive to you, he does. There's these great big giant set pieces. You're basically sort of there's one section where you're on a train trying to escape a giant like grinder wheel that is rolling through the environment towards you. And as it's sort of rolling its way towards you, jeep loads of bad guys are coming out of the woodworks trying to shoot at you and stuff like that. So it's very sort of chaotic and over the top and just utterly ridiculous. But it's a lot of fun. It is fun in all of the ways that Killzone is sort of predictable and pat. So I sort of admire that it's taken sort of conventions of video gaming and kind of turned them on their side. It's certainly conventions of shooter video gaming and turn them on their side and sort of let you in on the joke. I think it's unique. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but the time that I've spent with it, I've enjoyed very much so. And it's interesting to sort of play it back to back with Killzone to sort of draw the line between the two. And that Killzone, everything is so serious and it takes itself so deathly seriously. and in Bulletstorm, nothing is serious. Everything is a joke. Everything is a parody. Everything is a lampoon. And I like it. I've had a good time with it.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just kick back and have a good time. Have a brewski.
Totally. It is, yeah. It's probably a game best enjoyed with a few beers.
That's cool. That's cool.
I kind of like the sort of the premise behind it, how it's sort of they're trying to bring back high scores and combo moves and all that.
Yeah,
as opposed to everybody just blasting through like the latest Call of Duty. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's
you have a whole a giant moves list of combos, so it's sort of like you use the leash to swing a dude into a giant man-eating plant, you get 100 points. But if you just use the leash to fling him off the side of a building, you only get 60 points. So the more sort of like crazy, over-the-top, ridiculous combinations of things that you do, the better. And when you actually play it in sort of co-op or multiplayer, there are sort of combination ones where like I would fling a dude in your direction and you would kick him in the balls and then I would shoot him in the head and we would both get 300 points for that. So it sort of rewards like over the top ridiculous creativity.
That's good.
Yeah, which is fun. And it sort of unlocks these slowly as you play the game. That doesn't give you a list of 400 at the beginning. It's sort of like, bing, you got a new one. And you just sort of then go back into the environment like bound and determined to try to make that work for you. It's cool. I think you guys
played the demo, and it kind of reminded me of that Wii game, Mad World. Where,
there's definitely a lot of that going on, yeah.
It's just combo after incredibly bloody combo, and these ridiculous announcers narrating the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And in looks, it sort of has it bears a resemblance to Borderlands, I felt. The environments and the characters and stuff like that look quite a bit like a Borderlands game, but certainly with a lot more flavor and a very different sort of play style, but yeah, it's good. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. I had sort of dismissed it offhand. I mean, I even sort of said in my little article on Fiji Hangover that my money's on Killzone, but I've definitely spent more time and better spent time with Bulletstorm since it came out.
Yeah.
I'll get back to Killzone. I haven't given up yet. Cool. Well, onward into sort of the big topics of the week. And in light of my recent trip to Illinois to visit Volition, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite game developers. You guys want to jump in here? Who wants to go first?
I can go first unless DJ wants to, but he doesn't like to go first ever, does he?
Well, that's not true. I'm nominating you this time, though.
Oh, gee.
I'm on the outline first, but I feel like I've been talking for the last half hour, so.
Indeed you have, sir. Indeed you have. Okay, I'll go first.
Go for it, Paul.
I mean, I had a hard time deciding between a couple of companies, so I'm just going to, basically outline why I think these two companies are both incredible, but for very different reasons. Obviously, I mean, anyone who's been listening to the show, you know that BioWare is my favorite developer, or at least one of the top two. And I mean, it's kind of obvious. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying, in the video game hangover drinking game, somebody would be very drunk every single game. It's just drink every time you hear Paul talk about Mass Effect or BioWare.
Yeah, I know. I drone on about them a lot, but there's a reason why.
I didn't say you droned. It's all very interesting, but
well, I mean, there's a reason.
That reminds me. I'll be back in whenever Paul's done with this.
Well, I'll try to be done quickly then and put you on the spot. But I mean, it's like there's a reason why these guys are my favorite developer. I mean, they focus on game narrative better than any other company in the entire world when it comes to video games. I mean, this is obviously my opinion here, but the way they're able to craft these really well thought out, nuanced universes where you can just completely dive in and you could spend 3 hours just reading on the history of the characters and the world that they live in. I mean, that has a lot of soul there for it. And then now, you know, they're really focusing heavily on improving the gameplay that goes along with their narrative, because for a long time, gameplay wasn't really anything to write home about, but it was still fun. I mean, you know, they fell upon a lot of standard RPG tropes and whatnot, but I mean, it was still fun. But I mean, you think about it, like BioWare, they've basically taken over Western RPG. Like, they are the king of Western RPGs, unless, you know, you like those Bethesda games, which I'm not really the biggest fan of, but I guess it's between the two of them. But these guys, BioWare tends to focus more on the narrative, which is why I tend to gravitate more towards their games. But I mean, like I said, I love their focus on a very intelligent and nuanced narrative, and that's obviously like a common thread that they've been focusing on for the last 12 years, 15 years. One thing I really like about them is the way they take feedback from their fans. They keep a lot of anonymous statistics on their games, which a lot of people might find a little Big Brother-ish, but they also take feedback on their forums, or they'll, you know, send out email polls and whatnot, and they want to know what you like and don't like about their games. And Mass Effect 2 was basically the culmination of a lot of customer feedback and a lot of statistical tracking that BioWare did, and that's why it's such a huge difference from the first game. And I think that's pretty cool, you know, when you try to listen to your customers and fix problems. Like, a lot of companies, they don't like to admit that their games have any problems. It's the best thing ever. You're just gonna like it. You're gonna take it. You're make it. We're gonna make our game, and you're just gonna take it. And these guys, they seem to care a lot about their community, and I really like that. I mean, obviously, they have had some missteps in their gameplay.
Planet scanning.
Yeah. I mean, that's a misstep. It's boring. It sucks. And that's like old school BioWare kind of rearing its ugly head. We'll see what happens in Mass Effect 3 if there's any sort of a horribly boring planet scanning type of thing. I don't even know why they consider that like a minigame. God, that was just awful.
I want to see what the next logical step, the next progression of planet scanning.
Where do you go from there?
It's going to be like, here's 100 checkboxes. You need to check all of them.
Oh, man. I would not be surprised. God. I don't want to focus too much on the planet scanning thing, but yeah, that is indeed a great example of some of the missteps that company has made. But, I mean, they put a lot of time in creating those universes, and you know what? I appreciate that. And even if you don't like their games, you have to admit that it's worthy of respect when a company decides to create these really, really well thought out universes. And the other company that I think is probably one of my favorites, and this one I was thinking of, you know, like, what companies out there make games that I've been enjoying for a really, really long time. Squaresoft used to be one of my favorite developers, but I don't think I've enjoyed one of their games to like the utmost degree since Final Fantasy X. So they've kind of fallen from grace. But Capcom, these guys have been around for, oh man, how many? I mean, since the mid 80s,
since like
they've been
1933 or something.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have been around forever, it seems like, and they're always making quality games. I mean, they obviously have developed this bad habit of totally whoring out their franchises and running them into the ground. But just think about some of the iconic characters in the gaming industry that came from Capcom. I mean, you have your Mega Man. I mean, he's quite iconic. You have Street Fighter 2 basically created an entire genre, or at least took it to a level where, you know, it was viable. How many spin-offs of Street Fighter 2 or clones did you see in the 90s? I mean, it created this entire fighting game scene. That's quite pivotal. You have Resident Evil, which solidified the survival horror genre. And you even have like Phoenix Wright. He's quite iconic. These text adventure games. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Text adventure games were basically relegated to Japan for the longest time. And then all of a sudden you get like Phoenix Wright and it's kind of legitimized over here. And that's quite an accomplishment. And then you have like Devil May Cry, which is a really, really solid action game that they built upon from their PS1 era games. And then of course, you have your Monster Hunter, which is like the biggest or one of the biggest games in Japan. I don't know. I mean, that's like a huge variety of games that a lot of companies have a hard time competing with, if you ask me.
Like that's all coming out of the same house. That's impressive.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, obviously
just
you
one
have
guy.
Different...
Joe Capcom.
Michael Capcom, I think's his name.
Okay.
Joe.
Must be let his brother take over.
But like, how many other companies can you think of that release such an incredible variety of games that have had such a huge impact on the industry?
Activision. Come on.
Well, they were number 3 on my list, but I thought I'd leave that up to you guys or whatever. But yeah, I mean, those are probably my 2 favorite for very different reasons as well. I mean, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
I love both BioWare and Capcom. And actually, when I was a kid, all my friends and I were enormous Capcom fans. I think mostly because of like Mega Man and Street Fighter, but they were just they were amazing. They were like the company to beat back then, and they still are. They're pretty great.
It's amazing how they've been so relevant for so long.
Well, yeah. And another thing is they just you said they whore out their franchises, which maybe is not as much of a point of parody as it was during the whole the fighting game craze. But on the other hand, they've kept with those same franchises and continued to make them interesting and relevant, despite the changing gamer demographics. And
yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
it's worked out very well for them, and I still enjoy playing quite a few of their games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Capcom just simply because like it's unbelievable the kind of track record they have. I mean, Street Fighter 4 basically helped revive fighting games. I mean, it was a dead genre for so long, and bam, it's back. And now like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I mean, boom. I mean, these guys know that when they're onto something, they just hit it. They have home run after home run. I'm quite impressed. I mean, the only other company I could think of that might have a similar track record is Nintendo. But for me personally, I mean, I don't really play a whole lot of Nintendo games anymore just because they feel kind of stale. At least, like you said, Capcom is trying to evolve their games, and that's amazing. I love them.
Yeah, I feel a tiny bit left out of your admiration here because I've not played a lot of these games. I'm looking currently on Wikipedia on a list of games made by BioWare and Capcom, and there's a lot of stuff that, like certainly I've heard of. I mean, I've heard of Mega Man. I don't know that I've ever actually played a Mega Man game though.
Oh,
I've played quite a few Resident Evil games. What else? Capcom did Beautiful Joe, didn't they? I've played those.
Yes.
Those are great. I of course love the Phoenix Wright games. I love all the Ace Attorney games.
Killer 7 wasn't Killer 7 Capcom?
Oh, okay. I've played that.
Clover. I may be
I'm
totally
not sure
wrong playing that.
who did that, but doesn't matter where you are or where you're from. I mean, certainly Capcom has had some sort of title that has garnered your interest.
Yeah. The as far as BioWare goes, and you may find this interesting, the only BioWare game I've ever played to completion is Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood.
I was going to say that as a joke.
For the
That's
Nintendo
their best
DS.
game.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think so. I've got an aborted, two aborted attempts at Mass Effect and one aborted attempt at Mass Effect 2. But I actually played Sonic Chronicles all the way through.
Wow.
Yep.
How was it?
Yeah, how was it?
I enjoyed it. I mean, good enough to stick with it to the end. I don't play a lot of RPGs, so for me to finish that one was pretty noteworthy.
You know what they say about that Sonic game, though? It's a gateway drug, so be careful. You never know. I mean, you can look at BioWare's list of games, though. It's pretty short. I mean, they do not release game after game after game, so they are like almost on the opposite spectrum. You look at Capcom's list, and it's like 50,000 pages long.
Right.
And that's why I found it
And
kind of
half of
interesting.
it is Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, or actually, I think it's Mega Man games.
Oh, yeah. I think they actually have a Guinness record for
Yes.
something like that.
Yes, for either like most sequels or spin-offs or most games that fall in that kind of universe. You'd think it would be something like Mario, but it's actually Mega Man. Oh my god. You should see the list of Mega Man games. It's like enough to make you blush.
Jade Empire is BioWare. I've played that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I finished that, but I played that on the original Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, so they both take very different approaches, but I think they're successful at what they do, and I appreciate both companies a lot.
Nice.
Cool.
Let me guess, DJ wants to go last.
No, I'll go ahead. I was going to say or Capcom was pretty high on my list when I was thinking of my favorite developers. And then I guess if you had asked me this a few years ago, I would have said Squaresoft or Square Enix.
Yeah, if you asked me in the mid-90s.
I was an enormous fan, in the mid-90s. They were doing all their greatest work. Like Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story, two of my favorite games of all time, both Square Enix games. But then I sort of realized that as these companies were getting larger and larger and, acquiring other studios, that's how Square Enix came to exist, of just being Squaresoft and Enix, is that I started trying to pay more attention to the individual teams that were behind these of my favorite games. And so when you asked me today who my favorite developer is, I think I have to pick Yasumi Matsuno's team, who is responsible for the Ogre series and Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story, like I mentioned, and probably his highest profile release is Final Fantasy 12.
You took a very interesting approach to this question. I really admire that you zeroed in on the actual head and his team.
Well, it was sort of weird to realize that I don't really, think of one developer as my favorite.
Right.
I don't really, like you said, Squaresoft or Square Enix is kind of a little faltering in the last few years.
In our opinions.
Right. I'm sure there are plenty of people who are looking forward to Final Fantasy 13 too.
Just not one of them.
But yeah, whenever I hear Matsuno is coming out with a new game, my ears instantly perk up, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's hard to pin down one specific thing that makes their games really appeal to me, but he really his team he's been working with since the mid '90s, starting with Ogre Battle.
Now, is this the same team? He's got the same crew with him, or?
Pretty much, he usually does the directing, or he writes the scenario, stuff like that, and he uses the same artists and composers generally, same art director. But as a result, his games sort of have a very consistent look and feel.
Yeah,
because they all sort of they look like they all sort of belong in the same universe, and actually they at least a few of them supposedly take place in the same universe, so you'll get references to other games while you're playing through another one, which is
that kind of
also
consistency
very cool.
is unheard of these days with all these mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, so he's good at keeping the same sort of feel throughout them, even though the gameplay could be radically different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. So we've got the soundtracks and the art, which I enjoy quite a bit, but also the gameplay tends to be pretty unique, pretty original, sort of complicated. You have to really spend some time learning how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result, it's very satisfying once you get a grip on how everything goes together and you feel like you understand it. And there's just a lot of content in there you can really sink your teeth into. Like I mentioned, I'm about 50 hours into Tactics Ogre, and I feel like I'm still learning how to play the game, which is
wow.
I don't know if it would appeal to everybody. And
world's longest tutorial.
Right.
No, that distinction goes to Final Fantasy 13. Pazzow! Okay, that's a joke that's been running to the ground.
I don't think there are a lot of Final Fantasy 13 or people jumping out to defend that game. But
no, I don't think so.
Go nuts.
I should be safe from the emails and the evil tweets or angry tweets or whatever the hell you want. Angry Birds.
Yes, the Angry Birds. Angry Birds Final Fantasy 13 defense. But beyond the gameplay, I don't know what else is there. They tend to have pretty elaborate and sort of mature storylines.
Very political.
Yeah, there's tends to be a lot of political intrigue, like
Yes.
especially Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 12, at least at the beginning.
DJ, have you played the re-release of Final Fantasy Tactics on the PSP?
I have not. I played it for a few hours, but I know one of the most touted features of that was they totally redid the translation, which was, as much as I love that game on the PlayStation 1, the translation was pretty awful.
It's incredible. That's all I'm going to say. It's incredible.
But yeah, the stories tend to be pretty solid. I think you've got a bunch of really interesting characters usually. Vagrant Story in particular, you have very ambiguous motives behind each of the characters. Like some people you think oh, that's the going to be the big villain. Turns out maybe he's not the big villain. Maybe something else going on behind the scenes. And then
red herrings in a video game. Cool.
Yeah. And then in Tactics Ogre, which I really only played a few hours of it before this re-release came out last month. But something that really surprised me is that during the course of the game, you have to make these decisions.
Decisions.
Yes, decisions, right? And I know that's sort of the hot topic in these games coming out, like Mass Effect and Infamous. You have to decide, you're going to be good or evil.
Actually, I wanted to make a comment about that, like when I was talking about BioWare. I think that they've kind of set the gold standard on those morality-based gameplay, but
they're definitely sort of at the front of
yes,
they put it out there,
but they haven't really evolved it, and I'm kind of disappointed in that right now.
Well, you said it gets better in Dragon Age 2, doesn't it?
Dragon Age 2, the morality, well, what I like about, even the first Dragon Age, the morality was more shades of gray throughout the entire game. There wasn't any real good, bad, and whatever else. So, they've been quite consistent in the Dragon Age universe in when it comes to, morality, but I want to see them at least try to put some sort of consequences to your decisions. Now, Dragon Age 1 had a lot of that. You could lose party members if you made some decisions that, your friends disagreed with. Mass Effect, not so much. They're playing it safe. So I'm hoping that, it becomes more normal for BioWare to have some sort of massive consequences to the morality-based decisions that you can make. And once they do that, I'll be really happy. But it has gotten a little stale on their end. I hope they evolve it. But what's it like in Matsuno's games? Because I didn't even know that there was, decisions.
Well, Tactics Ogre, I think, is the one that has that does the most with the decision-making. I don't think there was as much of that in Vagrant Story or anything, which is why it sort of caught me by surprise. But there have been a few points in these games, usually at the end of one act or something like that, where you have to make a choice either through dialogue or your actions or something like that. And compared to BioWare compared to Mass Effect or Infamous, where it's, do I want to make the good choice or do I want to make the evil or malicious choice? They tend to throw these totally ambiguous options at you. And it's to the point where a few times I've, put down the PSP and I was like, oh man, I have to think about this for a while. not really sure what I want to do here. And the what's even more shocking is after you make that choice, the game can actually branch in 2 to 3 completely separate directions.
Nice. This was a Super Nintendo game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it first came out on the Super Nintendo, so this is like 15 years old.
He's a pioneer.
But I was like, oh wow, I can't believe I didn't even realize this was going on in this game. And I don't know, I thought that's very cool that I actually have to step back and think about what sort of character I want to create in this game. And plus, once you're on one of these branched paths, I think you get you sort of hear back from events. Like at one point, you basically end up splitting up with one of the characters who's been in your party. So you go one way and he goes another way. And you'll hear sort of rumors about what he's up to on this other path that you decided not to follow along. So that's kind of cool. It gives you sort of an idea of what
neat.
What the consequences would have been if you had gone.
You get sort of a look at the road less taken kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to going through this again and making some different decisions, seeing what I missed out on.
That sounds excellent. I didn't even know that Tactics Ogre had that.
Yeah, big surprise, and
holy,
totally totally digging this game right now.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I strongly recommend it.
Too many games.
Exactly. So that's just one thing. I mean, it's sort of, in retrospect, it's sort of unfortunate that Matsuno hasn't really brought back this branching element in his other games. But I still, I really enjoy just the detail he puts into all of his game worlds. There's always sort of like an appendix section in the menu where you can just read up on the history of these characters, sort of like you were talking about, like BioWare.
Yeah, sounds really very familiar.
But yeah, that's the sort of stuff I really get into, and it feels like you're actually in this living world that has a very real and detailed history.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some Matsuno fans that work at BioWare.
I'd be really curious to hear about that, yeah.
Is Matsuno's team working on anything new right now? Because I haven't really heard much.
Let's see, they just finished this up. I don't know what their next project is. I thought he had something scheduled for the Wii, but I'm not totally sure.
Maybe something to keep an eye on in the future.
I'll be keeping an eye on him. I'll let you know.
I think I will be too.
Again, sort of looking at these lists, I think I'm real kind of left out of this. There's not much here that there's nothing here that I've played, so I have no insights. But I gotta tell you, the Ogre sounds interesting. The videos I've seen of the gameplay look much more dense than anything I've ever sort of attempted to get into before.
Yeah, the learning curve on this one especially is pretty steep, and like I said, it took me a while to really just get my footing.
Right.
But it's so great once you get into it. Actually, Randy, I should have mentioned that this is totally random, and I still don't quite see the connection here because I haven't played all of this game. But Yasumi Matsuno actually, I think, wrote the script for Mad World.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is like, it's completely different from everything else he's done.
Right.
So I was
Which
like,
is
really?
A really funny game.
Yeah. I don't know if he was personally writing Greg Proops' dialogue, but that would be amazing.
Right.
He
wrote the script for the plot of the game, anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe he just needed to, blow off some steam after doing all these very heavy-handed political storylines.
It's interesting to me, just sort of in listening to the way that you guys talk about games, the disparity, maybe not the disparity, but the difference in how sort of maybe American developers and Japanese developers
definitely
approach, I guess, sort of who is responsible for the game.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of dialogue, and maybe this is not, I'm sort of stating the obvious, there's a lot of dialogue about sort of Asian developers, about sort of the team head, about the person who is sort of in charge of making the decisions, sort of being, I guess, sort of the headliner on the game.
Yeah, the face of the game or the studio or whatever.
Right. Well,
if you think about it, can you name 5 Western developers, like names?
Gabe Newell.
Okay.
That's the only one I got.
Will Wright, Cliff Blazinski, who's the dude at I guess they fired those guys at Infinity Ward, but yeah. Oh man,
you got to really think about it though.
So in the media, anyways, there seems to be a sort of.
I'm just bad at remembering names.
At names, yeah. Well, you're really impressive with the Japanese name because I can't remember how much. Surprised how many of those you can remember.
Oh, this is killing me. Who's the guy who did Bionic Commando? He did the music. He's awesome. Oh, I should know this.
I don't know. You fail.
Simon Viklund. There we go.
Okay, good job. In interviews and stuff like that, it's always sort of Mr. Whoever said that we should blah blah. You know what I mean? And then when you talk about sort of American games, it's always we as a group should.
And the studio name comes first.
And it's always a very sort of different sort of approach to branding, approach to sort of like public identity for your company and your developer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think usually like they're talking to a PR guy when they do these interviews with Western developers.
Right, yeah, that too. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's the Nintendo always sort of says Mr. Miyamoto. So I think I don't know that anybody sort of ever identifies. I think others have tried. Certainly, Sony and Xbox have tried to sort of have their figureheads visible faces, anyways. But I think certainly with like Reggie and stuff like that at Nintendo, they're much better at branding individual identity
But he's an executive, right? He's not an actual designer, and I think that's something that's lacking in Western developers, that face of the franchise type thing. And it's something that Western developers really need to work on if you want to get recognition in the public eye. You need a face. I mean, you got your Will Wrights, you got your Sid Meier's, he's another one, or Peter Molyneux, but
Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, but I mean, they need to focus on it a lot more, I think, if you want to get some real publicity in the general public. You gotta get those faces. You gotta have those stars. And something that, like Japan obviously does a little bit differently, like you said, is the heads of the team is usually the face of the franchise type of thing. Right. So and I like that a lot.
Interesting. Sorry to sort of derail your topic there, but I thought it just popped into my brain. I thought it was noteworthy.
I'm glad you noticed that, though. I didn't want to make a comment about it.
Consider that a derail.
Yeah, because DJ and I were talking about that when we were kind of going over. Yeah. We were, when we were going over the show notes and stuff like that. We were like, it's kind of funny, the distinction between East and West.
Right.
That you have these heads of studios that get like a prime billing, and in the West, it's more about the team in the studios, very corporate, kind of faceless. And I think that's something that Western developers definitely do need to be more aware of in the future.
Well, I think that certainly with one of the picks on my list. Is Double Fine, and Tim Schafer has sort of become the face and voice of that. I believe he's the head of the studio as well. But I mean, certainly he is, at least the way that they position themselves anyways, he is the impetus for nearly every project that comes out of that studio. So there is certainly that there, but I think, the way that is communicated in media is different than the way typically it is done with Japanese developers. But yeah, Double Fine, sort of on the topic, I enjoy Double Fine very much. And I think Tim Schafer came from LucasArts. Yeah.
Yep. He did a lot of the text adventure, or not text adventure, but the old adventure games for the PC. Yeah.
And Psychonauts was one of the first.
I'm going to embarrass myself here. Did he do Monkey Island, or is that somebody else?
I think that may have been someone else.
I think that's
the first game.
Else.
I think it was the first game that I know that he did. I think, and I might embarrass myself. I think he did Full Throttle.
That sounds right.
I know he was responsible. What is the LucasArts game that everybody sort of looks fondly back upon that has like the Day of the Dead kind of vibe with the skeletons?
Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango. I believe he was in the mix on that somewhere. And they started his own studio, Double Fine, and they produced. I think Psychonauts was their first game. I love Psychonauts. I think sort of looking back on a history of gaming, that is easily one of my favorite, certainly modern games anyways. Just everything about that, from the characterization to the world. He's sort of like I think of him in sort of a Tim Burton kind of vibe where, if you go see a Tim Burton movie, you sort of know what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
I think Tim Schafer sort of has the same kind of input over his games. He has since done Psychonauts and Brutal Legend. There's a series of downloadable games that they're doing now, Costume Quest, and what was the most recent one? Stacking. And they have a new one, Trench, coming out. They're developing a Sesame Street game for the Kinect. I don't know what to expect out of that, but there is definitely sort of a Tim Schafer sort of Double Fine, I think, style.
Would you say like the trademark is perhaps his satirical wit?
Yeah. There's definitely
they
sort
do
of
kind of have that off the wall feel to it.
A quirkiness, a level of oddity that I sort of respect. I sort of dig that. One of the other devs, and unfortunately they don't sort of exist in this this formula anymore, was Free Radical. Free Radical was a group that spun out of Rare. It was a bunch of the folks that had worked on the original GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, and ultimately with Perfect Dark, which sort of in my history of games is one of the first games that I ever actually sort of bought a console to play. And they left Rare to form Free Radical, and from there they developed the 3 Time Splitters games, which I believe came out for PS2 and the original Xbox, which I loved. Those are great, sort of oddball first-person shooters where you're bouncing around through devices through different periods in time, and you always have sort of weapons and scenarios that are appropriate for the time period that you're in. So it's sort of, as you're going through different levels, you have sort of 8 different kinds of shooters in one package.
No, that sounds kind of cool. So do you like focus more on melee combat way back in the past before gunpowder was invented type of thing?
Yeah, there's some of that, and there is some sort of exaggerated elements too, where you have sort of oddball creative weapons, and of course it's sort of the other end of the spectrum too is that it goes into the future, so you get crazy laser cannons and things like that. So, and this is all in the course of one game, as you're hopping around from the Wild West in the 1800s to a time portal device in 2096 and stuff like that. So, and all of those games have, and this is sort of will be the constant for me, an oddball sense of character and place, and a definite sort of visual quirkiness where everything is just slightly askew and slightly cartoony. They unfortunately they put out a game that I can't remember the name of for that was a PS3 exclusive. What the heck was it called? Haze. That was awful. That was so bad, and they spent ages and ages developing it, and it bombed. And it
was that the death of the studio.
And it was essentially the death of the studio. Yeah.
Oh, that
they
sucks.
were acquired by Crytek, and they now sort of operate as Crytek UK. I believe.
Are those the guys who make Crysis?
Yes.
Okay. Any game with Cry in the name.
Cry and Far Cry games, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I believe they're responsible for the multiplayer in the new Crysis game.
That's kind of a good sign.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a good sign as far as I'm concerned. But their sort of peach, their golden nugget as far as I'm concerned, is a little play game called Second Sight that came out, I believe, for GameCube, Xbox, the original Xbox, and the PlayStation 2. You play a psychic, reluctantly, who is drafted into a military organization, and they are using your psychic powers to sort of bring down a warlord kind of thing. And you wake up sort of in the game with amnesia, no identity, wandering around trying to escape a hospital. There's like
is this the one where you could like inhabit other people's bodies or something like that?
There is some.
I think you're thinking about Too Human or something.
I know, I'm definitely not thinking about Too
Human. I don't know. I know there was some game that some developers making where you're like some fallen angel who hops into bodies.
I'm never thinking of Too Human.
There is an element of that in this. There is sort of astral projection and things like that. There is sort of
sorry I brought up Too Human, guys.
Mind reading, and you do have sort of psychic powers where you can sort of light things on telekinesis and pyrokinesis and stuff like that. And all these sort of powers develop over the course of the game, and they glom you reluctantly onto a military unit and try to use those powers. And you as a character don't want to do that, so you fight it, and they imprison you, and on and on. It's like there is sort of a lot of story to the game. The characters are excellent. The voice acting is fantastic. There is, again, a sort of an oddity in the visual style. All of sort of the character faces are almost caricatures. They're slightly exaggerated features and stuff like that. Everything's just a little bit off from reality, and it gives the game sort of a tone of I don't know, of mirth that I sort of like, while they're dealing with this very sort of serious and dark subject. I love that game. I have played that game probably beginning to end, I think, 3 times.
Nice.
And I don't play very many games over and over again, but there's something about that one. I had it for the original Xbox. I still own it. I've never sold it or gave it away. It's in the Pantheon. And it sort of is unsung for me, and I love that game. So it was something that sort of anytime I saw sort of these folks' name or their reputation attached to a game, I always made sure that I tried to pay attention to it and play it.
Oh, wow. So I was curious. I had to look this up right now. It's on, they have it on Steam for $5. Check this out. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Excellent. I may have to play it one more time. I didn't realize that it had made the leap to PC. That's exciting.
God bless Steam.
You know, I was always kind of disappointed I never really got on the Time Splitters train.
Yes, I've heard
but,
good things
I
about
knew,
it. Yeah.
I knew they were the GoldenEye developers, but man, I couldn't convince my friends to play Perfect Dark. There was no way I could get them into Time Splitters.
No. Yeah, those were some of the first games, like when I got to the point where I owned a console and was an adult and could sort of spend my own money on games kind of thing. I had an Xbox, and I was really just looking for something that, looked interesting or appealing to me on a box package. And somebody, I think somewhere like at a Funko land pointed out, that's the guys that made Perfect Dark, and I was sold immediately. That goes a long way with me. So yeah, I've been hooked on Free Radical ever since. I think those are probably 2 of my favorites. Absolutely.
Well, you also have a Rockstar here. I mean, we've all played Rockstar games. They're a pretty special company as well.
Yeah, I was was going to omit that.
I'm
for
a big
Tom,
fan of that
but,
Rockstar table tennis.
But
what other games have they made?
This is great. Rockstar again. They continue to put out games that just sort of resonate with me. There is always a slightly sort of antisocial hook in every Rockstar game. There is always, I guess, sort of a Rockstar or a punk rock mentality to it. So it's not just a clever studio name. I mean, certainly Grand Theft Auto, Manhunt, Bully, I mean, are all sort of perceived as being very antisocial, but are all in their own right sort of sly pieces of social commentary.
Oh, big time. That's part of the charm.
Right, exactly. So I dig those quite a bit. I think they continue to put out games that are interesting and appealing to me. I think when they go in different directions, when they do, when Rockstar did the Grand Theft Auto for the DS, which sort of in my brain sounds like it immediately could be a giant clusterfuck. They just sort of brought a level of creativity and sort of eccentricity to it, and that game is a joy. There is so much.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys played the original Grand Theft Auto games? I'm talking about the top-down games on the PC. Because
you can download those for free from Rockstar's website. Yeah,
Chinatown Wars and whatnot really reminded me of those games. It was kind of like a nice updated throwback to what where they cut their teeth.
Yep.
I love that top-down camera in GTA 3. I wish they hadn't taken that out.
It was nice, although not very functional at times, but it was fun.
No, well, that's probably why they get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be able to see the road ahead of you a little bit.
Yeah.
Max Payne, I like their Max Payne games.
I love the first one.
You didn't care for the second one?
It was good. I did play it. The story got a little the narrative in Max Payne is already amped up and hokey, and the second one just kind of lost me a little bit, and I felt like it was more the same, so I kind of lost interest halfway through. I mean, it was a solid game, but
curious to see what happens with Max Payne 3.
Are they still making that?
Yeah, there was sort of a rush of information, and now it's sort of disappeared. These are the folks responsible for Red Dead and Undead Nightmare. We've already sort of weighed in on that game, I think, quite a bit. And they have L.A. Noire coming up. They are developing a game called Agent. That's a PS3 exclusive, I believe. I know nothing. I don't think anybody knows anything about.
Yeah, we know it exists. Right. Maybe
it was announced and then forgotten about. But again, Rockstar sort of continues to produce games that I think sort of speak to me.
I think Agent is buried with the Coke formula and the Colonel's secret recipe somewhere in the vault. No idea what's going on with that.
Right.
Oh, the Coke formula came out, though. There's still no details on Agent, though.
Cool. All right. So let's wrap up that segment. That was good. Thank you guys for weighing in there. We're going to take a little break, right?
Yeah. And I need a break.
We're going to get our video game community theater on. And we'll see you on the other side.
Video games are art. Here at Video Game Hangover, we respect that art. We welcome you to join us for a little segment we call Video Game Community Theater.
Oh, yes, please. I'm a little nervous.
I understand.
Hey, what's going on?
Jill, is that you, Jill? What happened?
Barry, help me, please. The door won't open. Quick!
Stay away from the door, Jill. I'm gonna kick this door down. Hurry, this way.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life. But, Barry, didn't you say you were going back to the dining room to do some research? Why on earth are you here?
I just had something I wanted to check. Now, let's get back to searching for the lost captain and Chris, shall we?
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of Video Game Community Theater.
All right, we are back. We've been talking amongst ourselves, and we are not concerned, but we've observed that the show is running a little bit long, certainly longer than we would generally like to record these things. So we've elected, we took a democratic vote and decided to nix the second topic this week, in the interest of sort of saving time and getting you guys back to your lives and getting us to bed. We're gonna pretty much wrap it up right about now. But before we do, I know Paul had something he wanted to talk about quickly before we wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, what's today's date? It's the 14th of March.
It's
I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but well, actually, it's the 15th for you, Randy.
It would be actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, I'm
it is the Ides of March.
I'm a little distracted because here we are. We're having this podcast of video games, and that's great. We're celebrating this amazing industry and entertainment form that we all love. But as everyone is aware, there's this obviously huge disaster that's going on in Japan. And for the last few days, I've been thinking, like, how can I go and record a podcast about video games when, like, the country where so many games were developed that I grew up loving is pretty much it's on its heels right now. I think maybe one of the best ways we can really respect the country is to celebrate some of the products that have come out of it, or the entertainment, like video games. So that's why, I was able to get myself together and record this cast. But if you can donate anything, please, donate to the American Red Cross or whatever charity of your choice. But
Japanese
we need
Red
to
Cross.
help. Pardon me?
The Japanese Red Cross.
Yeah,
Cool.
Whatever charity. It's, we love this industry. Let's try and help that country that helped save this industry get back on its feet, because that country really, it needs our help. If you can only donate like $2, $5, it doesn't matter. We need to show that, gamers can help. People do that, with Child's Play and whatnot. I think we need to kind of step up and just do what we can. I really don't know what else to say. It's kind of just sad. And I've already started to donate some money that I can afford. But, I implore any of our listeners to donate whatever you can, because that's a magnificent country that has obviously produced a lot of the product that we all love and celebrate, so we need to give back. We owe them.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think very well said, Paul. I think it's overwhelming and devastating, and to watch some of those videos, certainly to sort of see the unedited stuff, even just on YouTube, and just try to wrap your brain around that being your reality at this point in time, I think is nuts. So certainly, and as with anything that's sort of natural and disastrous, I think the communities that support the industries need to step up, and that's us in this case. That's us as gamers and consumers. So I think, yeah, you're right. We definitely should, whatever you can. It's one of those things where sort of every dime helps kind of thing. So we can get a link probably up on the website, right? I imagine if people don't know necessarily where to go to get the money in the right place.
Yeah, we'll have some links to either the Red Cross or other charities, whatever you can afford to give would help out. So
every bit helps.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. That said, I guess we'll wrap up this fifth episode, this long-awaited fifth episode of Video Game Hangover. If you, the listener, are looking for show notes or musings from Paul, DJ, and I, or want to talk about this week's show, just hit up our website at vghangover.com. You can also email us at contact@vghangover.com.
And we want to hear who your favorite game developers are, so leave us a note in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless it's BioWare, we don't want to hear about that.
It's been done. We also have a cool weekly feature called Play More Games, where every Tuesday we sort of talk about this week's new releases and get our sort of our sofa analysis of what the best bets are for spending your hard-earned gaming cash, and maybe a little bit of the politics, science, and whatever fun behind them. So definitely check out our blog every Tuesday for Play More Games.
And also look for my retrospective on these games that, we revisit after a long time. That's kind of the theme I'm going for. Revisit a game that we loved a long time ago and see if they've grown up with us, what holds up, what doesn't. Have we noticed new things in the stories or whatever? Just little things like that. And I think we're also going to be doing reviews shortly as well, right?
I have probably about 60% of a review of Ghost Trick written. So my thoughts on Ghost Trick will be going up on the website certainly in the next couple of days.
And we really didn't get a chance to talk about that because obviously our review segment was cut. But yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
that's still going to be going up, right?
We'll he'll be posting that, and we still will talk about reviews probably.
Yeah,
next
absolutely,
episode,
yes.
So
yeah.
be sure to tune in.
It is certainly a topic that is near and dear to all of us, and I know that there are some strongly held opinions here, so it will get its due at some point.
Yeah.
Cool. What else?
Also,
follow us on
keep an eye out. Sorry, keep an
What?
eye out for the poll so we can vote on what game Paul is forced to play.
Yes, that will be fun.
We'll give you a tweet or something when that's live. So keep an eye out.
That sounds excellent. I'm looking forward to that.
And that said, you should follow us on Twitter. We are at twitter.com/VGHangover. We have a boatload of new followers on there because of our contest, so we hope you guys are sticking around, listening to some episodes, and like what you hear. Definitely chime in. Let us know what you think. DJ Paul and I are on Twitter as well. You can find our links on the website. We'd love to get your reviews on iTunes and the Zune Marketplace. None of us are really sure if you can write reviews in the BlackBerry app world, but if you can, you should do it.
And it does have our artwork now. I noticed it the other day.
Fantastic. Cutting edge technology. Cool. But we, like I said before, we do have a boatload of BlackBerry listeners. So chime in. Who are you? We want to know. Yeah, give us your reviews. It would help a lot.
Give us your bones. Send us your bones.
Send DJ your bones.
Yep.
I don't want bones. It's late. Forgive us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I should have something funny to go along with that, but I'm just drawing a blank here.
No, we're done.
I will simply say thank you for nursing this video game hangover with us. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
The intro and outro music from this week's episode of Video Game Hangover is from Eric Skiff's album Resistor Anthems. You can download a free copy of it on Eric's website, glitchnyc.com/music. If you make awesome video game-inspired music and would like to have it featured in our podcast, get in touch with us at contact@vghangover.com.